poor. The courses that I scraped by in were courses that I genuinely liked. So I found myself having to leave university. That was a rough go. That was 8 months of me sitting on my laurels at home, feeling sorry for myself, and watching true crime shows in the middle of the day, and, you know, my problems with mental health and with all sorts of other unsavory things that were in my life, they just got worse and worse. But the thing that saved me was, you know, going back to school and all that, and that was 4 years of hard work, but you know what, it wasn't accompanied by a change in my activity. Really, overall, a change in my nutrition either. I had a period where I lost 20 pounds, but, you know, and it, for some reason it stayed off. I can't tell you why, because I didn't do anything that made it realistic to have it off. I was still going out and eating all the time, and if you think I was moving, then you were definitely malinformed. So where does that bring me? That brings me to being, as I described in the last episode, to me being 286 pounds and having high cholesterol and having lived with my friends all summer in this absolute, like, party house and putting ourselves in the worst situations and having all sorts of terrible things happen in front of my eyes that at the time didn't even bother me, because my life just, it didn't, I wasn't even surprised at this point that things wouldn't be great, because I didn't think, and I think a lot of people out in the world who have problems, you know, whether it's like you're struggling with a mental illness, you're struggling to find your healthy balance, people like myself don't think that they're good enough to have good things happen to them. And when you think that, at least when you're in that state of mind, there's a defeat that comes with that, and I absolutely was prey to that. Now, things are about to go on the up. This has been such a drag of a few minutes of talking, but before we push into the really happiness of kind of how things started and what specifically I did to turn around my health in terms of my physical activity, we have to take a break. The final break of the hour, so I'm not going anywhere too long. We got some important messages, but when we come back, it is just me and you, my friends, straight talking until 8 p.m. So don't go anywhere. Annii Gets Healthy will be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Annii Gets Healthy right here on 93.5 CHMR FM. And a little update on my standing situation. I am still standing. I didn't think I was actually going to do a whole episode where I stood, but here we are, 34 minutes in. Drum roll, please. No, I think I'm going to keep standing. Feels good. So if you're just tuning in, well, it sucks for you because we're halfway done. But the name of this episode is From Fat to Fit, how I discovered discovering my capabilities. So once again, I'm hoping that these first two episodes will be, pre-recorded and thrown onto the internet and onto the airwaves again at the beginning of the next semester, the winter. Once again, I think it's just a really great introduction to the show. And if you think that I have time to be pre-recording at the beginning of the semester, then you are so mistaken. I am human like all of you. I have no time. Lucky I'm here. I am very lucky. But anyways, when we left off, I was talking about just how entirely dead I felt when I left MUN, when I was in college, and even the 2 years that I was working. Now, it was the first year, really, that is where something had to give and a change started. But even in that second year, as changes were being made, I wasn't where I am today. So clearly there's discussion that needed to happen there. So let's go to me being 24. Kind of freshly 24, only about a month of being 24. And I'm 267 pounds, and you know what? As I said, I am sedentary. I did not do anything at this stage in my life. I would wake up, get my, Nestea, whatever, and I would hop in to the car and drive to work and just sit there for like 8 hours and then drive home and then play video games. That was my life. And I kept being all fidgety at work, and I didn't feel right, and I was anxious, and I started having these panic attacks at work. And my boss is just like, you need to cut down on the caffeine, I look back now and I'm like, yeah, that's it. It's the caffeine. But hey, I really do, I'm very grateful that I listened to that, because it was the first modification that I made. Not so much the caffeine, but it was the quitting the sugary drinks and everything. And I used to always think, and it kind of has to do with a bit of how I feel about carbohydrates now, where it's like we think we need sugar, like excessive amounts of sugar to do anything, when really it's kind of the opposite. We take in all this sugar and we have less energy, because I was always so fatigued and tired, and I was just drinking these sugary drinks all day long. And so once I had been like removed from that for about 2 months, and as I described last week, I had lost maybe 15 or 20 pounds, probably 20 or more when I started going to the gym. So why did I go to the gym? And actually, I'm about to do a little testimonial. I'm actually switching gyms now, but before I leave, I actually do want to do a testimonial for my old gym, just because that's where I started, and it is kind of emotional leaving, and we've discussed, before my leaving, that it is sad, because, it's kind of hard to believe everything that happened in less than 2 years. But I have my reasons for needing a change temporarily, and I may be back at some point. But my reason for going to this gym, it was mostly self-care. I had been working at this job for about 7 or 8 months. I was on contract. My contract had been extended, which it wasn't supposed to be, and still, the time had come. I had to leave. And so I had been looking for work, and, I don't think it matters if you're in, like, a variety of industries, there's going to be problems in finding work. And IT was no different. Like, it's every job that would go up, it was 1 million people applying for the one job. And yeah, I was college educated, and I had a tiny bit of experience. But for every time that I post, you would have these guys with 10 years of experience with my education and maybe another diploma or 3 certifications on top, or, with an actual computer science degree. So, needless to say, I did not have people banging down my door to offer me jobs. And I knew that I was going to get depressed, because I know me, I know what I'm like. And when I'm left, as I said, when I got kicked out of mud and I was just at home, sitting on my couch watching Nancy Grace all day, which, by the way, don't ever do that. I don't even think she's a show on TV anymore. She's online, but don't do that ever, because nothing ever gets better when you do that. And I knew, I did know better. I hadn't really began engaging in any sort of activity up to that point, but I knew that I was going to need something. Now that I'm in school again, I can say that what I needed, I identified a need for meaningful leisure in my life. And for me, that led to me going to this gym, this really great place that was so accommodating to me, and is accommodating to a lot of different people and families and all sorts of situations. I didn't tell them my situation or anything. I just said that I, want to join the gym, and that I had extra time on my hands, and I just wanted to start coming to the gym more often. And so I'm sure, you get a lot of big people who walk into a gym and say, I want to come to the gym 3 times a week, and someone will go, yeah, right, you're not going to do that. And I don't judge anybody if they thought that of me, because I'm sure in the back of my head was like, you're not going to do this. In fact, why even make such a big goal for yourself? Telling yourself that you're going to come to the gym 3 times a week, you're setting yourself up to fail. That's what my internal, and I remember going through this a few times in the course of that period. But, that was actually a very rocky period of my life. And I would later say to people who would go, why do you go to the gym 3 times a week? I would say, well, it's the one thing in my life that I can control. And at this point, I could notice that when I made certain dietary changes, my weight would go down. And when I did go to the gym 3 times a week instead of 2, my weight would go down. Or even if I had a really bad nutritional slip-up, if I was consistent the rest of the time and I went to the gym often, my weight would at least remain the same. And so, while I couldn't translate this to a lot of people because I wasn't equipped with the information or the really raw passion that I am now, I did know, I was aware that, there was some medicine in this that I had found. And so I discussed my dad getting sick last week, and so this is really like the worst time of my life at this point, because my nightmare is playing out. I'm a college graduate who's unemployed, who is looking for work, who's on EI, who is not getting any calls back for, I'm having a hard time finding job postings, and the ones that I do find that I'm, applying for, nobody's getting back to me. And half the jobs I apply to, I kind of don't even want to begin with, because they just seem like jobs that would make me miserable. And on top of that, my father's chemo no longer working, and, knowing that this can't go on forever, and he was, planning to go to Toronto and hopefully get on a clinical trial, but once again, experimental treatments are experimental, and I had a feeling that the end for him was not too far away, and I was correct in that, and I felt like I was never going to be a true professional in the field that I had gone to school pursuing, which also was not untrue. So rather than because how I dealt with all this stuff for the previous part of my life, was to just sit at home with my head down and go, man, this sucks. And you know what that accomplished for me? Nothing, except I would just keep on doing that, and my life would get worse. So for the first time in my life, I was like, you know what? I have something that clearly works for me as medicine. And so I started going to the gym, and when I said 3 times a week, for the most part, I meant it. And the worse of a day I had, the more of a desire I had to go, because I knew that I was going to find something at the gym that I wasn't going to find at home, because I had looked from the floor to my ceiling. I had looked in every closet, every dresser drawer of my house for something that would make me feel better, for something that would change my life, and I didn't find it there. I found it outside. I found it at the grocery store, and I found it at the gym, but that's really oversimplifying it. I found it in many places, but the gym is what I'm talking about this week, and it was so monumental in changing my life. So what did I do when I went there? Well, I didn't want to get on a treadmill, I'll tell you that right now. I saw all these people running, and I was like, oh my god, I could never do that. And to be honest with you, thank God I didn't. If you're a bigger person that's able to run, I say you are awesome. Just as long as you're careful and you know your body, that's awesome. But I was so terrified of hurting my knees. And so I was like, okay, I don't think that's for me, and I don't think I could even do it anyways, but I'm going to walk on a treadmill. And so I would walk on a treadmill and speed up the pace and do high incline. I hated it. I don't think anybody likes cardio. I've come to kind of enjoy a lot of forms of cardio now, but I definitely hated it then. I didn't really see the medicine in it at first, but nonetheless, I knew I needed to do it if I was going to have some sort of meaningful weight loss that would continue, because once again, your body adapts to things, is how I saw it, and eventually my body would get used to the way I was eating now, and maybe my weight loss would slow, which of course it probably would have if I hadn't supplemented it with more change and more physical activity. And I'm lucky that I continue to lose and maintain now when I'm really doing the same stuff. Maybe a little difference in my physical activity, but nothing dramatic. But what kept me going to the gym was not the cardio, I'll tell you that right now. What I found, remember at the beginning of this episode, I talked about those boy muscles. I wanted to have muscles. I wanted to be strong. Strength was important to me. So, naturally, when I went to the gym, I turned to strength training. Now, I didn't go and start lifting barbells and picking up dumbbells in each arm and going crazy. I started out just by doing weight machines. And on, the lowest or second lowest settings. And, after a couple weeks, I was feeling good about myself. And I mean, hey, I wasn't doing anything that you would look at and see as impressive. And I knew that I definitely had the feeling in my mind that people were looking at me and going, oh, they're, fat person. And I always had that feeling when I was big, was that people were always looking at me. And it was a horrible feeling. But when I was at the gym, I didn't care. Because I was like, well, yeah, I'm big, and that's why I'm here. I want to, even if I'm never going to be, slim, I'm at least going to be healthier. I'm at least going to make some, net positive change on my life. And so, once a month, I'm adding 5 or 10 pounds to those weight machines, and I'm maybe doing them in a certain order. And I'm finding that maybe there are certain muscle groupings that I hated doing at